but we are training ourselves to mistake the destination for the journey, because all we have is the journey. It's too common where it takes someone to have reached a lot of success to realize that success does not bring happiness, and that if you don't have happiness, you have nothing. Before people reach that success, they hear the stories of someone who life changed because they got a boat and a mansion and a car. And they think, I know money doesn't bring happiness, but for me, it'll be different. Everyone thinks this. But we can learn from so many people who have reached their dreams, everything they ever imagined, and are still left with an emptiness inside. And we see so many affluent nations suffering with the most depression, the most anxiety, the most suicide, because they, more than anyone, have been told that these things are the key to happiness. And when they find out that then its own emptiness, really disillusionment kicks in, and they feel they've been lied to. They feel the world doesn't make sense. Everything they've believed is a lie. But we just have to look inward to know that if you are happy, then you have something priceless. There is nothing more important, nothing greater in life than the joy of life itself. And when we're told, I'll be happy, put off your happiness until the next promotion or the next raise, you can finally be happy. Sacrifice your nights, your weekends, your social life, your love life for just a little more success. Not only do we miss the joy of the present moment, not only are we sacrificing our present happiness for a future illusion of happiness, but we are training ourselves to mistake the destination for the journey, because all we have is the journey. This journey of life continues until our last breath. And we need to practice enjoying each of those breaths. We all have that experience when we can look back on something that caused us a lot of suffering and we laugh on it. Very often, when people are going through hard times, sometimes we will make our suffering so intense so that we force ourselves to either let go of it completely or die. Like, those are the two options that we give ourselves unconsciously in order to force ourselves to end that suffering. The good news is we can choose that moment. We don't have to let it get to the darkest place. Simply allowing that suffering to be our teacher instead of our enemy. By making peace with our suffering, we bring peace into our mind and body. We all have that experience when we can look back on something that caused us a lot of suffering and we laugh on it, right? We have that larger perspective. Time has healed those wounds, and we can now look back on something painful and laugh about it. And so that is turning suffering into joy. And the good news is we can speed up that process by taking the bigger perspective right away, which is to say, looking at our suffering. And instead of fixating on a moment, we can look at the causes that brought that suffering. We can look to the big picture of what caused those causes with careful observation and awareness. We can see and understand that suffering. And if we spend time in meditation or reflection, really examining and doing this, we can put 10 years of healing into a few days or weeks, and we can truly get to that place quicker where we can laugh about it. There is a great quote by, I believe, an anonymous person who said, "The wise man does not trip over the past or trip over something behind them." And that process of accepting, it starts with accepting this happened. Then we have to observe and bring awareness to the big picture. And then that little moment of suffering feels very small and insignificant. And it's super important to allow ourselves the time to not just release the mental suffering, but where it is carried in our physical body. Because that tension manifests in all sorts of ways, from high blood pressure and heart disease to pain and constricted blood flow and all sorts of problems that come when our body is not fully at ease, as opposed to dis-ease. And that can just come from being aware of where we're holding that tension, being aware of how that suffering has affected us, and giving ourselves the time to heal, just like we need time to heal a cut. We need time to heal from any kind of mental trauma as well. And the more time we allow ourselves to really explore that, the faster we can heal. And the more quickly we can laugh about it. If we try to create the perfect set of circumstances to bring us contentment, whether it's having this house or this car, or everyone was pleasant today, then we are living a life that is dependent on external situations. When we can truly just nourish our mental state, when we can develop an inner peacefulness and tap into that inner dimension of love, which has no object, which has no focal point, it is pure being, then a real deep contentment comes into our lives that is unshakable and unwavering. And it's simply creating a habit, a daily practice, where we use every moment to deepen our connection to the present moment. And then suddenly, feeling of isolation disappears. Feeling of never enough disappears. And a real sense of abundance and connectedness, oneness, fills our lives. And that doesn't matter. Nothing can change that. Nothing even compares to this feeling. And so we stop chasing those physical pleasures, those pleasures of the senses, and something much deeper arises. When there is that connection and oneness, there's nothing to compare to. And it's that real comparison that really is what makes us never content. And so oneness is the way out of that.